So in this section, we will learn how can you become a mobile developer, what are the skills you need, what are the responsibilities, challenges, starting salary and prep time you need in order to become a mobile developer. And then we will talk about some strategies as well. So there is going to be a lot of information. So without any delay, let's get started. So as a mobile developer, you are mainly responsible to build, develop and maintain the mobile application for your company or your product, which means that can include things like designing and building entire mobile application for either iOS or Android devices, collaborating with different teams, creating the designs, making sure that the app works as expected, writing clean and scalable code, making sure that the application is very good in terms of user experience, it is eye catchy. On top of it, you are always trying to develop new features for the mobile application. So these are the things that you are going to be doing typically on a day-to-day basis as a mobile app developer. Now let's see that what are the skills you need in order to become one. In order to become a mobile app developer, you should always be thinking about that how can I make my code more efficient? And that's where the number one requirement comes in, that you should start understanding the fundamentals of programming and fundamentals of coding. So things like how does different loops operate, what are different data structures, what are time and space complexity, how can using one data structure over the other data structure can impact the runtime of any program. So after learning the fundamentals of basic programming, then we can start preparing for the mobile app development. And that's where the second requirement comes in, that is to choose a platform. Mainly we are working with two platforms for mobile applications. Number one is the Android and second one is the iOS. So if you decide to go forward with Android app developer, you can start thinking about Java and Kotlin background and start working on that. If you want to go with iOS, you can start thinking about Swift and Objective-C languages. And then there is a whole separate tech suite for each one of them. So I'm going to give you both of them in terms of skills. So whichever one you are more comfortable with, you can pick it up. Next is that once you already choose the platform, you need to understand that how that platform can be operated. So for Android applications, you need to work with Android Studio, and for iOS, you need to work with Xcode. So understand those environments and then start understanding the next step, that is to understand how does the mobile UX and UI work, what are the different tools available for that. So you can start thinking about tools like Sketch and Adobe XD in order to improve upon that. So far, this gives you a great starting point in terms of mobile application development. Now let's start thinking about that how those applications are going to be interacting with different parties. For that, you need to understand how does API integration works, how does REST API calls are work, what are JSON payload, what are XML payloads, and how do they transmit along. So you can start understanding that, and with that you can next step would be to gain understanding about how does database management work for the Android or iOS application. So for Android, typically we prefer database such as like SQLite. Meanwhile for iOS, mostly we use core data. And if you intend to store all the data into cloud environment some sort of, then Firebase is also very good popular option for you. So you can pick and choose. Next would be the logical thing to learn is going to be understanding the core concepts of version control, and I am repeating it again. So you need to know how does Git works, and then maybe any of the tool like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure repos, all of them behaves in the same manner. So just pick and learn one, and it is always going to be useful. After that, you need to understand how does testing and debugging would work for your applications, and it is slightly different than conventional applications. So for that, you need to use different tools such as like unit testing, UI testing, Appium or Espresso, depending on your tech stack. So after learning more about testing and debugging, next step would be to understand the security fundamentals. So things such as encryption, data storage, secure data transmission, and all of those policies and practices, because mobile applications have become much more than just simple like regular mundane application. Now there are financial transactions associated with that. User personal details are being shared. So you want to make sure that you are aware about the security principles and incorporate those with your application. Next step would be to understand the performance and optimization mechanisms. For that, you can think about using tools such as Android Profiler, Xcode Instruments, or Firebase, because they are all really popular. And after learning this, I think we are almost done with all of the basic and important skills needed in order to become a mobile developer. Last would be some cross-platform development tools. So tools such as Flutter or React Native or Xamarin, you must learn this. And this is the sequence that I recommend, that you can start learning and start understanding. And if you follow these in this manner, I think you would be in a much better shape. Also, you will cover most of the important knowledge that is needed for anyone to become a mobile application developer. Now, speaking about the starting salary for mobile application developer, in the United States, you can expect a starting salary of somewhere between like 60,000 to 120,000 US dollars, which is pretty good. Once again, the starting salaries change depending on your geographic location and the years of experience you have, also the type of company you are applying for. So, but overall, this is a very good career choice. So this is a really good compensation for anyone planning to become a mobile app developer. Now, if you want to prepare for the role of mobile application developer, I would recommend to give it somewhere between like 3 to 6 months. This is a reasonable time to learn most of the skills we talked about. If you put like dedicated efforts, you can be prepared in like 3 months, and you can also start making your own application and understanding how the mobile application developer role works. The big debate with mobile app developer is whether to go with Android or iOS. Now, both are popular, but if we see last few years, Android is gaining more popularity in terms of numbers of devices being sold. But there is a huge divide between like Western hemisphere and Eastern hemisphere. So in most of the Western countries, iPhone is still a more dominant market. Most of the Eastern countries, Android is picking up quite significantly. But that doesn't mean that there is going to be need only for iOS developers or Android developers. You can pick and choose. Both are really good. If I personally have to pick from starting from scratch, I would probably go for Android. And there is one simple reason, because I have some background knowledge of Java, so I can gain much benefit. But if you are starting with a clean slate, it's up to you. So you are in the best position to make that judgment call. Now let's talk about some of the challenges associated with the role of mobile app developer. Number one challenge is every single year mobile applications change. There needs to be a new set of updates, new set of configurations. Most of the time, if we see like iPhones, they tend to remain much more similar, but in Android, there is a great amount of variations. There are like fold phones, there are flat phones, there are curved phones, and then there are phones that operate in like different manner and different sizes and different dimensions. So you need, when you are creating your application, you need to think about all of these things. So that is number one challenge associated with the role of mobile app developer. Second challenge is mobile app development market is really critical and really cutthroat. So you always needs to be on top of your game and always trying to make better updates, smarter designs, more aesthetic and pleasing looking experiences, much more responsive designs. So you always needs to be on your toes, and there can be some critical deadlines that you might have to worry about. Third thing is, now there are more AR and VR goggles coming in and new devices coming in, for which we will need the applications as well. And more than likely, mobile app developers will also have to start thinking about that. So there is a possibility of always keep on learning something new in order to stay up to date with what is going on around the world. So you always needs to be prepared for that. So these are some of the challenges associated with the mobile app developer role. Now let's talk about the future scope for the role of mobile app developer. Well, we all can imagine that mobiles are going nowhere. They have become integral part of human life, and their use and popularity still continue to emerge and increase, which means there is always going to be need for more and more mobile app developers. Plus, from mobile app development, you can actually jump into more senior leadership positions. You can also go for like UX UI design role. You can also become a backend developer if you understand that how does backend logic work and how does those intrinsic items work, which means mobile app development gives you a very good scope of becoming a full stack developer in the future as well. So in that regard, this is a good career opportunity. And now let's come to the final topic on learning what should be the preparation strategy for mobile app development role. So in my opinion, I would advise that start with the fundamentals, just as we spoke about, and then pick up a language that you want or pick up a platform that you want to work on. Whichever platform you pick, actually start learning with applying. What I mean by is that start building your own application. It can be anything. It can be an application about you, or just a very small game, or anything, and try to see that can you publish your application in the platform of your choice. So that whole journey is going to give you such a good experience, and whenever you are sitting in the interview, you would be able to answer all the questions in like a different fashion. And also it would be much more impressive for interviewers to see that you have actually created something on your own, which is a great thing to see. So this would be my advice. If you want to learn all the technologies that we saw in the skills you need section, you can go to tools like YouTube, Udemy, or Coursera. They have most of the information that you need, and they are really helpful.